popping up, but if obviously you live in and around, not in, if you live around the airport, you know that you're kind of in the direct path of this, especially if you're from the airport out to Erlanger, out to Crestview Hills. If you live in between those, this tornado warning and that rotation is going to be the biggest kind of impact for you, that you have that best chance to potentially deal with a tornado dropping to the ground. We don't have any confirmation of that, and not any of our products are indicating that it is on the ground. The rotation is there, and that, of course, is why we have this warning continuing for about another 15 minutes until either that or the National Weather Service does do away with this warning. Latest update here with the kind of the skits that, again, our weather system uses. A BTI, you see there at the bottom of 2.5. If that's above a 4 or a 5, that's a pretty good indicator that we've got some serious issues. So it's nice to see that below 4 or 5. That helps. Hail doesn't look to be a huge issue, and we haven't seen that with any of our products, but obviously the rotation is still there. The biggest concern with that will be the rotation. This isn't because of wind speeds. You're not all of a sudden going to get blown away with 50, 60 mile per hour winds, straight line winds. It would be the rotation that causes the tornado. So one of these systems where it's causing a lot of concerns, it's ringing a lot of alarms, both figuratively and literally, out there through Hamilton County. As I've mentioned, and I will say again, if you are in the central or eastern half of Hamilton County, this does not concern you. You heard the warnings because of it's part of Hamilton County. And remember what I just talked about? This cylinder right here that was here about 20 minutes ago and we haven't seen it yet. That is our product, our weather system, indicating that there is getting some tighter rotation there at the surface. Not what we want to see. I'm going to take the lightning off here and I'm going to pull back up this, see if in the latest radar scan if we're getting any of that, which I don't believe we are, but we'll still pull it up. And, you know, right over Hebron, I'm going to take this off real quick. There we go. This area right here, I'll draw it on the screen for you right there. That is the area that has that rotation. That would be from Hebron, and if it continues to move, you know, this way a little bit, if you're in Constance, if you're in Villa Hills, probably just south of you, from Villa Hills down to Erlanger, you guys are in that path. So Villa Hills, you still need to probably go ahead and get into that safe spot. You're obviously in that warning, and if it continues to move more east than southeast, which is certainly possible, then you guys would end up being right under that rotation, and that's going to go from Lakeside Park to Fort Wright. So Boone County, Kenton County as well. It's right in the middle of Boone County, now making its way just to the border there into Kenton County. So that will be who is up next, and once we get a latest skit that updates that and kind of goes back closer to the middle of that system, we'll be able to get a better idea of some more of that timing. But we'll throw this on again. It was about 22 miles per hour, so go to 21. And if you're in Villa Hills, 735. And I would say that's probably a little bit on the slower end. So I'd say by 7:30, that's right on your doorstep. Again, if you are not in your safe spot, if you are in any of these towns, if you're in Villa Hills, Crestview Hills, Erlanger, you need to be in that safe spot. So that just got its latest update, and that has that skit going directly over Erlanger, which obviously is what I was just mentioning, and how it's going to be there by probably 7:35 within the next 10-15 minutes. This warning is in effect until 7:30. I would be surprised with the way things are going if they don't extend this warning. So currently, the warning is in effect until 7:30, has not been extended just yet, but with 10 minutes to go, will be interesting to see what happens with that. We'll go back to the shear rate. Getting those brighter colors is kind of expanded out a little bit. I'm going to throw on the radar loop here. You can see exactly where it's moving. So there's where it's tight, right over Cleves, goes over Hebron, and then right about here is when it expands a whole lot more directly over Hebron and right over the airport. This is why I said if you live around the airport, you need to be watching us right now on your phone, on your laptop. You need to have your weather radio and just go to the basement. Go to the bathroom in the middle of your house. Try to get a blanket on over your head in case if you do get some flying debris, because you guys are right in the direct path of the rotation. I'm not going to say in the direct path of the tornado because we don't have any confirmation that that is on the ground, and nothing currently showing that that is on the ground as we speak. But obviously, when I talk about this product and this tool that keeps showing up every once in a while, this is indicating that you have that ground severe base velocity wind shear, and we just got an update there with that shear rate, and maybe just north of the interstate now, or of the airport. So this is definitely moving more east than south, but still somewhat of a southeasterly tilt, and that's why places like Villa Hills, you guys need to be prepared. Even though you look at this normally and you're like, all right, it's going to go south of us. Well, if it continues to move directly east, then yeah, we're going to have some concerns for sure. You go back to the radar, still not seeing an inflow notch, but what I do want to show you again is that time lapse and talking about how the last 15 minutes, it was headed south, southeast, and kind of just moves a little more east than anything. So that is going to be why you still have that tornado warning in effect, although that does look like the latest update from the National Weather Service has taken off Hamilton County. So Hamilton County no longer under the tornado warning. So that is good news. If you're watching us from anywhere in Hamilton County, you are good to go. But Boone and Kenton County, you guys are still the main focus here of this warning. And you can still see that rotation. I've talked about the spinning icon that you see there on the screen and how that is indicating that surface level shear, that surface kind of rotation that is not only up in the atmosphere and up in the clouds that we get here with the radar scans, the green and the red, but you're also seeing it a little closer to the surface, and that is cause for concern. At one point we had about 80 miles per hour of different wind speeds. We had 40 and 40 going away and towards the radar. I'm going to pull on some of these again to see where they're at, 35, 37. So it really hasn't lost a whole lot of strength, which clearly is just going to show that over the last 30 minutes, only dropping down a few miles per hour, still seeing that tight rotation. That's why places like you and over Hebron directly right now into Villa Hills is that biggest concern. Chief Meteorologist Steve Raleigh just was able to help update everything, and he's going to continue to drive this ship here. And this is our Barron button, and like I mentioned earlier, the pink with that showing some of that bullseye right over Hebron as well. You can see some of those times as we've continued to mention. 7:30 was that backside of that system kind of being out of Hebron, so that's when you guys would be clear. So still need to be hunkered down if you are in Hebron because of that potential for that rotation making its way on into the area. So the purple is where that best chance for some rotation is. You got another system obviously out there in Rising Sun. We'll keep a close eye on that. Our skits that usually get updated, they're a little behind with all of this, kind of lagging a little bit as this system moves on in. You can see what's potentially, something indicated with that inflow notch trying to happen, trying to get sucked in. Doesn't look like it's coming to fruition, which is at least some good news here. So you were not seeing with that as I pop up on the screen there. So there's that shear. It was really tight over Cleves, kind of lessened or weakened a little bit, and right over the airport, right out there at CVG. There's that bullseye of that latest path there with that shear. So that's going to be, as that moves, you see it's kind of moved a little bit more to the east. So places like Constance, if you're familiar with that area, right along the 275 loop. It's almost as if it's going to ride that 275 loop over to the Boone and Kenton County border there and then drop just a little bit further to the southeast. That is exactly what we've been talking about, that tight rotation still there. Those are some bright colors. Steve's going to pull on these winds. There's 43. There's 32. Again, at one point we had 80 miles per hour with some of that rotation, and that's 2 miles of that separation. So that's some pretty tight rotation there, and that's what happens when these butt up against each other. You don't have any of that space between it. That's some pretty tight rotation, unfortunately, which is why this warning continues to be in effect. National Weather Service, when they issued it, was in effect until 7:30. So we have at least 5 more minutes. And the way everything's been going, I don't expect them to expire this or cancel it. I would expect it to be kind of jumped up again. But there's what I would be keeping a close eye on in terms of if an inflow notch were to form, would be right around here. We haven't seen it get too defined. That's some good news, but it's trying to get there. And we've been seeing that. This system is trying to do things. It's got all the activity, right? We had the severe threat. We're under a slight risk for severe weather. We've already had several rounds of showers and storms. Usually that kind of lessens your chance to have that severe weather again, but All indicators have pointed that we would get this second round, and it's certainly packing a punch with all this rotation that we've seen. There's some purple with some even heavier downpours there. The lightning has been quite something to see as well. As a reminder, if you did hear those tornado warnings out in Hamilton County because they were ringing for a while, you guys are good now. That system is clear of you. So if you're in Delhi, you're obviously hearing a lot of thunder. There's a lot of thunder just ripping through the west side into downtown here pretty soon. You are not under any threat with that tornado as we speak, as it is now south of you, moving into northern Kentucky. So Boone County, almost out of Boone County, but still hanging on. It's right on the border, and that is the biggest issue. We also got to remember that we have that flood watch in effect. We've had a few flood advisories. We're looking at rainfall rates at 6-7+ inches per hour. These are deluges. These are just torrential downpours that are happening, and it's not moving that fast. This is where we could also start to see some flash flood warnings become a big issue. So not only do you have the tornado warning you got to worry about, you've also got the flash flood warning that would be in effect here if that does continue to happen. So there's, again, right about there from Hebron down into Lakeside Park. This area is up next. We mentioned Erlanger earlier as well, just because that's more of a well-known area, and that would be what's next up in terms of bigger area and bigger towns that people are more familiar with. Creston Springs obviously there as well, into Crestview Hills, very populated area right next to Erlanger, and that latest skip has it, pull that up there, do that time drag. It's probably in the next 10 to 15 minutes at the very minimum. We're looking at places like Erlanger at 7:44. That skip, though, a little behind where that rotation is, so I would say 7:35. You've got 5-10 minutes. If you're not in your safe space yet, I would get there now. At this point, especially if you're in Erlanger, if you don't have a portable, if you don't have a phone, if you don't have a laptop that can connect to us and stream us, grab a weather radio and just get down in the basement, get in the center portion of your house, put us on the TV and just blast the radio or blast the volume up so you can hear exactly what's going on, because this is not something you want to play with, as this has continued to show some pretty tight rotation. I will reiterate, we haven't seen a major concern, where we haven't seen any confirmation of a tornado, but we've seen all the ingredients that it's possible for one to drop down. So there's that latest skip that Steve just pulled up for me. Fort Mitchell, 7:33. You guys got 5 minutes. A little bit further down, Erlanger, maybe 2 minutes longer. Fort Wright, you're looking at 7:36. Independence would be the furthest one out if that continues to be extended, and that would be 7:55. So you guys have about 20 minutes. Again, this is set to expire in 90 seconds. The National Weather Service hasn't made a decision just yet. Steve, I'm going to ask you one more time to pull up the storm relative velocity just to see if that rate is, that's somewhat of some good news. We're not seeing it as tight. Again, it was some pretty crazy numbers there at one point. Still 36 and 41. So even though those aren't bright colors, a little deceiving, because we're still looking at about 80 miles per hour, and that's 2.5, maybe less, probably 1.5 miles of distance with that. So yeah, 1.5 miles right there. And there's the latest update of 40 miles per hour. So 1 minute now until 7:30, and Steve, I don't think anything's been extended. Can you zoom? Yeah, they haven't extended that yet, but no. When that thing pops back up, yeah. And that's the third, fourth time now that that's happened since this was all issued, and that is our product. That is the Barron product that we are able to look at, and it does a great job of showing us not only when the rotation is in the atmosphere, which is what the green and red does, but a little closer to the surface, and that's a cause for concern, and this is exactly where it's over. So places that we may not be familiar with, Marydale, maybe just more of a locator. If you're near Marydale, if you're along, is this 270, is this 275, 471, I'm not quite sure what exactly road that is. It's 7175, I guess I should say. So right over Florence. If you're in Florence, you need to get inside right now. I wasn't able to see that. Obviously, that is the biggest indicator of where things are. Florence, getting the inside of your house as soon as possible. Turn the TV off, get in there, grab the kids. I know it's only 7:30, but maybe the little ones are getting down for a nap, or getting down to sleep. Put it off for about 30 minutes. Wait till this system gets by you, because that will be that rotation over you right about now. Now, Steve, I'm going to have you zoom out here because it's 7:30, and I don't think we have.
It's gone.
Are they not going to?
It's gone.
I'm a little surprised by that. I'm not going to lie, especially with our indicators pointing to everything.
Yeah.
We'll give it about a minute here to see if they reissue, just because I am kind of shocked with that rotation and that 80 mile per hour difference, only about 1.5 miles away. You're getting some of that rotation at the surface. We'll give you a quick recap of everything that's happened. We had that tornado warning, a lot of strong rotation. This was issued for Hamilton County at one point, so a little deceiving because I bet some of you in the northeastern portions of Hamilton County were seeing some sunshine, and you're like, why are the tornado sirens going off? And this was more so for the western half of the area and the west side near Delhi, Cleves. At one point was directly over it, went right over the airport as well. Florence, so they issued a severe thunderstorm warning, and I'm assuming they're going to say severe thunderstorm warning, tornado possible. So because they didn't give us a tornado warning, I still want you guys to I would just wait until this all clears out if you're in Florence, especially with some of that rotation and Independence. If this gets re-upgraded to a tornado warning, we will hop on immediately and continue to track it throughout the entire evening, because this is a system we will be watching very closely, especially with the amount of